How to never get angry or bothered by anyone. Ladies and gentlemen, life is full of people, circumstances, and situations that test our patience. Some days it feels like the world is just waiting for us to lose our cool. But what if I told you that you could navigate through life with grace, calm, and clarity, never letting anger or frustration take control? Let's explore this idea step by step. Understanding where anger originates is a transformative step toward mastering your emotions and reclaiming control over your inner peace. Anger, at its core, isn't something that happens to you, it's your response to the circumstances around you. It's not the external event that dictates your feelings, but your interpretation and reaction to it. This is a crucial realization because it shifts the focus from blaming others or the world to taking responsibility for how you choose to feel. Imagine a common situation: someone cuts you off in traffic. For many, this seemingly small act triggers a surge of frustration or anger. The heart races, the hands grip the steering wheel tighter, and thoughts of indignation flood the mind. But why? The action itself, another vehicle merging abruptly, lasts only a second. The event is neutral until we attach meaning to it. Perhaps you think, how dare they, or they don't respect me. These interpretations ignite the anger, not the action itself. Now consider an alternative response. What if, instead of reacting with frustration, you paused and reflected? Maybe the person who cut you off is in a hurry for reasons you can't imagine. Perhaps they made a mistake, just as we all do at times. Suddenly, the situation feels less personal, less about you, and more about understanding the broader context of human behavior. This shift in perspective has the power to diffuse anger before it takes root. The truth is, no one can make you angry without your permission. It's not the rude remark, the careless action, or the insensitive behavior that creates your anger, it's the meaning you assign to these actions. When you understand this, you begin to see that the power to remain calm and composed lies entirely in your hands. This doesn't mean ignoring wrongdoings or pretending everything is perfect. Instead, it's about choosing how much power you give external events to disrupt your inner world. Let's delve deeper into this idea. If someone criticizes you unfairly, your initial instinct might be to feel offended or defensive. But pause and ask yourself, is their opinion a reflection of you, or is it more about them? Often, people's harsh words stem from their insecurities, frustrations, or misunderstandings. When you realize this, their criticism loses its sting. You see it for what it is: a fleeting moment that doesn't define your worth or your day. Taking responsibility for your reactions is not always easy, especially when emotions run high. However, it's a skill that can be developed with practice. Start by observing your triggers. Pay attention to the situations or behaviors that provoke you. When you feel anger rising, pause and ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? Is this truly about the other person, or is it about my interpretation of their actions? This moment of introspection can be incredibly powerful. One practical way to implement this understanding is by reframing your thoughts. Instead of thinking, they are disrespecting me, try, they might be having a bad day. Instead of, this is ruining my day, consider, this is just a moment, and I control how the rest of my day goes. This doesn't mean excusing bad behavior, it means refusing to let it control you. Imagine how liberating it feels to know that you are not at the mercy of others' actions or words. You can encounter negativity without absorbing it. You can witness someone's anger or frustration and remain steady, like a rock in the middle of a stormy sea. This inner strength doesn't just happen overnight, but each time you choose to respond with calmness instead of anger, you reinforce your ability to stay centered. Understanding the source of anger also involves recognizing that it often stems from unmet expectations. We expect people to be considerate, fair, or understanding, and when they fall short, we feel hurt or frustrated. But consider this: are these expectations realistic? People are imperfect, just as we are. By adjusting our expectations and accepting that not everyone will act as we hoped, we free ourselves from the constant cycle of disappointment and anger. Ultimately, the key to never getting angry or bothered lies in reclaiming your power. It's about realizing that the world will always have challenges and people will sometimes act in ways that disappoint or upset you. But you have the choice to respond differently. You can let these moments pass without letting them define your mood or your day. When you embrace this mindset, you take the first step toward true emotional freedom. You learn that peace is not something others can give or take away from you. It's something you create within yourself. And that understanding, my friends, is the foundation for a life where anger and frustration no longer hold power over you. Life has a way of presenting us with challenges, whether in the form of rude comments, difficult coworkers, or disagreements with family members. These situations often leave us feeling frustrated or overwhelmed, as though the universe conspires to test our patience. But what if we changed how we viewed these encounters? What if, instead of seeing them as obstacles, we recognized them as opportunities for growth and self-improvement? Every frustrating moment carries within it a hidden lesson. The rude comment from a stranger might be an invitation to practice grace. The difficult coworker could be a chance to develop patience. The challenging family member might be teaching you the art of forgiveness or understanding. When you shift your perspective from seeing these events as personal attacks to viewing them as opportunities for learning, something remarkable happens. You stop feeling like a victim of circumstances and start becoming a student of life. This shift begins with a simple question: what can I learn from this? The beauty of this question lies in its power to transform even the most irritating situations into moments of self-discovery. For example, when someone makes a cutting remark, your initial reaction might be anger or hurt. But if you pause and ask yourself what you can learn, you might discover an opportunity to strengthen your emotional resilience or to communicate more effectively. Instead of reacting impulsively, you respond thoughtfully, turning a potential conflict into a moment of growth. Consider how this perspective can reshape your experiences with difficult coworkers. It's easy to label someone as annoying or uncooperative and to dread every interaction with them. But what if you approach these interactions with curiosity instead of frustration? Maybe their behavior challenges you to improve your communication skills or to practice staying calm under pressure. By viewing the situation as a lesson rather than a burden, you empower yourself to grow rather than simply endure. This perspective shift is not about excusing bad behavior or pretending everything is perfect. It's about taking control of your reactions and choosing how you interpret the events around you. When you stop seeing yourself as a victim of others' actions, you reclaim your power. You realize that while you can't control how others behave, you can control how you respond. This is where true freedom lies, not in changing the world, but in changing how you see and engage with it. Family relationships often test us in ways that no other interactions can. A challenging family member might say or do things that push your buttons like no one else. It's tempting to respond with frustration or to distance yourself from them altogether. But what if you saw these moments as opportunities to deepen your understanding of yourself and your loved ones? Perhaps their behavior is a mirror reflecting something within you that needs attention, whether it's unresolved emotions, a need for stronger boundaries, or a chance to practice unconditional love. This shift in perspective requires humility and self-awareness. It's not always easy to admit that the source of our frustration might be an internal issue rather than an external one. But when you approach life with the mindset of a student, you become open to discovering these truths. Every challenge becomes a stepping stone toward becoming the best version of yourself. Take a moment to imagine what life would be like if you embraced this mindset fully. The things that once annoyed or angered you would lose their power over you. Instead of dwelling on negativity, you would focus on the lessons hidden within each experience. This approach doesn't mean you'll never feel frustrated or upset again. Those emotions are a natural part of being human. But it does mean that you'll have the tools to process them constructively and to grow from them, rather than being consumed by them. The beauty of this practice is that it extends beyond personal growth. It also improves your relationships. When you approach others with curiosity and a willingness to learn, you create space for understanding and connection. Instead of judging or blaming, you seek to understand their perspective. This doesn't mean you have to agree with them or tolerate harmful behavior, but it does mean you can respond with empathy rather than anger. Over time, this mindset becomes a habit, shaping how you see the world. You begin to view every encounter as a chance to grow, every challenge as an opportunity to learn, and every frustration as a stepping stone toward wisdom and inner peace. Life becomes less about what happens to you and more about how you choose to interpret and respond to it. In the end, this perspective is a gift you give to yourself. It's a way of freeing yourself from the constant cycle of frustration and resentment. By shifting your mindset from victim to student, you transform life's irritations into valuable lessons. And in doing so, you not only grow as a person, but also create a more peaceful and fulfilling existence for yourself. Mastering your emotions is one of the most valuable skills you can develop, not only for your peace of mind, but also for your relationships and overall well-being. It's a practice rooted in discipline, and like any discipline, it takes time, effort, and patience to cultivate. Emotional control is not something that happens naturally for most of us. Instead, it requires conscious effort, much like training a muscle. The more you work at it, the stronger it becomes. At its core, emotional mastery is about creating a space between a trigger and your reaction. It's easy to think that anger, frustration, or irritation are automatic responses to certain situations, but the truth is that you always have a choice in how you respond. This choice begins with awareness. The moment you feel anger rising within you, recognize it for what it is, an emotion trying to take control of your thoughts and actions. Awareness is the first step, because without it, you're likely to react impulsively, allowing anger to dictate your behavior. When you notice anger starting to build, pause. This pause, although seemingly simple, is incredibly powerful. It's a moment where you interrupt the cycle of emotional reactivity. Take a deep breath. This act of breathing may seem insignificant, but it serves as an anchor, grounding you in the present moment and giving your mind a chance to reset. Inhale deeply through your nose, hold it for a few seconds, and then exhale slowly through your mouth. This practice not only calms your nervous system, but also gives you the clarity to evaluate the situation rationally. In that moment of pause, ask yourself an important question: is this worth my peace? Most of the time, the answer will be no. Think about it. How many times have you let a small annoyance ruin your mood or even your entire day? Perhaps someone made an inconsiderate comment, or you encountered an unexpected inconvenience. These moments, while frustrating, often don't deserve the level of emotional energy we give them. When you ask yourself if the situation is worth sacrificing your peace, you put things into perspective and remind yourself of what truly matters. The secret to mastering your emotions lies in consistent practice. The first few times you pause and reflect, it might feel awkward or forced. You might still feel the anger simmering beneath the surface. But the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Over time, you'll notice that situations that once provoked strong emotional reactions no longer have the same grip on you. This isn't because the situations have changed, but because you have changed. You've trained yourself to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Another important aspect of emotional mastery is understanding that anger often stems from unmet expectations. You expected someone to behave a certain way, or you anticipated a situation unfolding differently. When reality doesn't align with these expectations, frustration arises. By recognizing this, you can begin to adjust your expectations and accept that not everything will go as planned. People are imperfect and situations are unpredictable. Instead of fighting against this reality, embrace it. When you let go of rigid expectations, you create space for acceptance and adaptability, which naturally reduces the intensity of negative emotions. Building emotional discipline also involves reflecting on your triggers. Everyone has certain situations, behaviors, or comments that set them off. Take the time to identify yours. Maybe it's being interrupted during a conversation, feeling unappreciated, or dealing with inefficiency. Once you've pinpointed your triggers, you can prepare for them. This preparation doesn't mean avoiding these situations altogether, but rather equipping yourself with strategies to handle them calmly. For example, if you know that traffic makes you impatient, try reframing the experience as an opportunity to listen to a favorite podcast or practice mindfulness. It's also helpful to remember that emotions are fleeting. Anger, no matter how intense, doesn't last forever. In the heat of the moment, it might feel overwhelming, but if you give it time, it will pass. Remind yourself of this when you're on the verge of reacting. Instead of lashing out or letting the emotion take over, acknowledge it and let it run its course. This act of acknowledgement without attachment is a powerful way to regain control. Over time, as you continue to practice these techniques, you'll notice a profound shift in how you handle challenges. You'll feel a sense of empowerment, knowing that external circumstances no longer dictate your inner state. This doesn't mean you won't ever feel anger or frustration again. Those emotions are part of being human. But it does mean that you'll be better equipped to manage them, preventing them from controlling you. Mastering your emotions is a lifelong journey, but the rewards are immeasurable. Not only will you experience greater inner peace, but you'll also find that your relationships improve. People are drawn to those who exude calmness and composure, especially in difficult situations. Your ability to stay grounded will inspire trust and respect in others, creating a ripple effect of positivity in your interactions. Ultimately, emotional mastery is about reclaiming your power. It's about recognizing that while you can't control what happens around you, you can always control how you respond. This realization is liberating, transforming your perspective and empowering you to live a life guided by intention rather than reaction. With practice and persistence, you can build the discipline to bridge the gap between anger and peace, creating a foundation for a more balanced and fulfilling life. You cannot control the chaos of the world, but you hold full authority over the sanctuary of your inner world. The reality of life is that challenges, frustrations, and disappointments will come your way. People will test your patience, situations will fall apart, and outcomes won't always align with your expectations. However, none of these external factors can dictate your peace of mind unless you allow them to. Your inner world is like a garden, and every thought and emotion you entertain is a seed you plant. The question is, what kind of garden are you cultivating? Are you sowing seeds of anger, frustration, and resentment? Or are you nurturing seeds of calmness, joy, and understanding? Picture this: every interaction, every experience, and every moment in your day offers you a choice. When something doesn't go as planned, when someone says something unkind, or when a situation feels unjust, you stand at a crossroads. You can plant a seed of negativity, anger that takes root and spreads, frustration that overshadows your mood, or resentment that lingers like weeds. Or you can choose to plant a seed of positivity, acceptance that allows you to move forward, understanding that grants you peace, or forgiveness that clears the way for new growth. The power to decide lies entirely with you. Think of your inner world as a precious garden that requires care and attention. Just as a gardener tends to their plants by removing weeds, watering flowers, and ensuring the soil is fertile, you must tend to your thoughts and emotions. When negativity creeps in, recognize it for what it is: a weed that, if left unchecked, can spread and choke the life out of your peace. Pull it out before it takes hold. This doesn't mean ignoring or suppressing your feelings. It means acknowledging them and then choosing not to let them dominate your inner world. Here's an exercise to help you maintain your garden the next time someone tests your patience. Smile. This smile isn't for them, it's for you. It's a simple yet powerful reminder that you hold the key to your own peace. Smiling in such moments might feel counterintuitive at first, especially when faced with rudeness or difficulty. But it's a deliberate act of reclaiming control over your emotions. It signals to your mind and body that you refuse to let external negativity take root within you. Smiling doesn't mean you're condoning bad behavior or dismissing your feelings. Instead, it's a tool to pause and remind yourself that your peace is too valuable to be traded for fleeting anger or frustration. This small gesture creates a moment of clarity where you can assess the situation without being overwhelmed by it. Over time, this practice helps you build resilience, making it easier to remain calm and composed in the face of adversity. Another aspect of guarding your inner world is being mindful of the thoughts you entertain. Thoughts are powerful. They shape your emotions, influence your actions, and ultimately determine the quality of your life. If you find yourself dwelling on negativity, rehashing past conflicts, worrying about future problems, or harboring resentment, you're planting seeds that will only grow more negativity. But when you consciously choose to focus on gratitude, kindness, and understanding, you're cultivating a garden that thrives with positivity. One way to shift your focus is to practice gratitude. At the end of each day, take a moment to reflect on the things that went well, no matter how small they may seem. Maybe someone held the door open for you, or perhaps you enjoyed a delicious meal. By acknowledging these moments, you're planting seeds of appreciation and contentment, which strengthen your inner peace over time. It's also important to set boundaries to protect your inner world. Just as a garden needs a fence to keep out pests, you need to establish limits to safeguard your peace. This might mean saying no to toxic relationships, limiting exposure to negative news, or stepping away from situations that drain your energy. Protecting your inner world isn't selfish, it's necessary for your well-being. Remember, the way you respond to the world is a reflection of the state of your inner world. When your inner garden is well tended, you're better equipped to handle life's challenges with grace and resilience. You become like a tree deeply rooted in fertile soil, able to withstand the strongest winds without being uprooted. This process of cultivating your inner world is not a one-time effort, but a continuous journey. Just as a garden requires ongoing care, your inner world needs constant attention. Some days will be easier than others, and that's okay. What matters is that you remain committed to nurturing the seeds that lead to peace and joy. Ultimately, guarding your inner world is about choosing peace over conflict, understanding over judgment, and love over resentment. It's about recognizing that while you cannot control what happens around you, you can always control what happens within you. Your inner world is your sanctuary, your refuge from the chaos of the external world. By tending to it with care, you ensure that it remains a place of calm, joy, and growth, a garden where only the best seeds are allowed to thrive. Forgiveness is often misunderstood. People think it's about letting someone off the hook or pretending that their actions were acceptable. But forgiveness is not about the other person, it's about you. It's a gift you give yourself, a way to reclaim your peace and let go of the anger, resentment, and pain that weigh you down. When you hold on to anger, it's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. The only one truly harmed is you. That anger lives in your heart, occupying space that could otherwise be filled with joy, contentment, and freedom. Letting go is easier said than done, especially when the hurt runs deep. Perhaps someone betrayed your trust, said something cruel, or acted in a way that left a lasting scar. It's natural to feel anger in such moments. But the problem with holding on to that anger is that it chains you to the past. The longer you hold on, the heavier it becomes, affecting not just your emotional state, but also your physical and mental well-being. Every time you replay the event in your mind, every time you let the bitterness resurface, you're reliving the pain. Forgiveness, then, is not about excusing the act, it's about freeing yourself from being its prisoner. This freedom begins with a decision to release the hold that anger and resentment have over you. Forgiveness doesn't mean you're condoning what was done or forgetting the harm caused. It doesn't mean you have to reconcile or even interact with the person who hurt you. What it does mean is that you're choosing to prioritize your peace over your anger. You're deciding that your mental and emotional health are more important than the grudge you've been carrying. Consider how much energy it takes to hold on to resentment. Think about how often your mind circles back to the wrongs done to you, how much time you spend replaying the past and imagining different outcomes. Now imagine what life would be like if you didn't carry that burden. Imagine feeling lighter, freer, and more at peace. That's the power of forgiveness. It liberates you from the weight of the past, so you can fully embrace the present. Forgiveness is also a process. It's not something you can force or rush. It starts with acknowledging your feelings, anger, hurt, disappointment, and allowing yourself to experience them without judgment. These emotions are valid, and pretending they don't exist won't make them go away. The key is to process them in a healthy way. Whether that means talking to someone you trust, journaling your thoughts, or simply taking the time to reflect on what happened and how it affected you. Once you've acknowledged your feelings, the next step is to reframe your perspective. Ask yourself what holding on to this anger is costing you. Is it affecting your relationships, your ability to focus, or your overall happiness? Often the answer is yes, Recognizing this cost can be a powerful motivator to let go. Remind yourself that forgiveness isn't about them, it's about you. It's a way of reclaiming your power, ensuring that the actions of others no longer control your emotions or your life. A helpful exercise in the process of forgiveness is to imagine placing the hurt and anger into a physical object like a rock or a bag, and then visualize yourself putting it down and walking away. This simple act of visualization can serve as a reminder that you have the choice to let go. You don't have to carry that burden any longer. Another crucial aspect of forgiveness is self-compassion. Sometimes the hardest person to forgive is yourself. You might blame yourself for trusting the wrong person, for not standing up for yourself, or for making a mistake that led to the situation in the first place. But holding on to self-blame is just as damaging as holding on to anger towards someone else. You deserve your own forgiveness as much as anyone else does. Remind yourself that you are human, and being human means making mistakes, learning, and growing. Be kind to yourself and give yourself the grace to move forward. As you embrace forgiveness, you may find that it opens the door to empathy. This doesn't mean you have to excuse or justify someone else's behavior, but understanding that people act from their own pain or ignorance can help you let go of the anger you feel toward them. This doesn't minimize the impact of their actions, but it does shift your perspective, making it easier to release the hold those actions have on you. Forgiveness is not a one-time event. Sometimes the pain resurfaces and the anger creeps back in. When that happens, gently remind yourself of the reasons you chose to forgive in the first place. Repeat the process as many times as necessary. Over time, the pain will lessen, and the anger will fade, leaving behind a sense of peace and liberation. Ultimately, forgiveness is about choosing peace over pain, freedom over resentment, and love over bitterness. It's about recognizing that while you cannot change the past, you can choose how it affects your present and your future. By forgiving, you release yourself from the chains of anger and step into a life of greater peace, joy, and fulfillment. Life is too short to spend it bothered or angry. The people and situations that challenge you aren't there to defeat you, they're there to refine you. When you learn to master your emotions, you don't just become unbothered, you become unstoppable. So the next time someone or something tries to rattle you, remember you are the gatekeeper of your peace. Don't hand over the key to anyone. Thank you.